Hoe gaan dit, Mark? Hoe gaan dit, James?
Dit gaan baie goed, dankie, my vriend.
Goed.
That sounds Welsh.
Tidy.
Hoe gaan dit met die draak?
Baie goed. Baie goed. James.
Yes, sir.
Big weekend in rugby. No bigger weekend in a long time.
Yes, this is the culmination now for the big prize, for the trophy that everybody's going after.
The ticket to the final dance.
100%. But yeah, certainly the biggest game, apart from the first game that we played against the All Blacks, this is going to be the biggest game so far for South Africa in this World Cup. So,
are you worried?
Yeah, look, I'm positive that we're a good rugby team. But there are certain things that for me are concerning that we've been able to get away with against the likes of Canada and Namibia. And Ollie and I were having a chat earlier.
Money boy, but he's in the corner.
He's in the corner. He's in the corner.
Hasn't earned the right to compete with the big dogs yet.
For me, it's, like I said, South Africa have got two styles of play. They either bash it up or they go to ground and then they start again. Yeah. We kick away way too much possession. It's pointless kicking. And
in your humble opinion?
No. My opinion is not humble. It's a factual opinion. so there are certain concerns. We're certainly going to be tested against a well-coached side with better skill sets, better game plan. And if we don't bring our A game and keep that ball for as long as we can, score more tries than them, then obviously the result's not going to go in our favour.
And as important, a team that has a nicer sounding national anthem to me. We'll win I think we'll win the battle of the national anthem. The Welsh can sing.
That they can.
Mark, I love the South African national anthem, by the way, James. Because I've been here, I love it. But I can't sing a lick of either one of them. Mark, big weekend? What are you concerned?
I'm cautiously optimistic. Which means I'm very concerned. So, of all the, there was a moment when I just thought, my God, France are going to win, and we'll roll France. But just like I think Eddie Jones, since he took over, has been targeting one game, the semi-final against New Zealand. He always knew that's how it would pan out. Yeah. And they've played them once in basically 4 years. Warren Gatland is so familiar, and Sean Edwards are so familiar with the South African style of play. Mm-hmm. And the one thing about Wales is 4 wins in a row, and 5 of their last 6. And the only defeat was a 23-19 defeat in the quarterfinal, 2015. And that at 76 minutes, that game was a 1-point game at that stage.
Well, that's the last time that you guys beat us, isn't it? Because Wales have won 4 in a row. Yeah. Like I say, 5 out of 6. But
they're a side that their players believe they can beat South Africa. And Gatland's style of...
Well, we've beaten you like a red-headed stepchild, so for the last 5 years, so of course we did.
And in the 108 years preceding that, there was only the one licking. I've been very bullish about the Boks at this World Cup, and I feel that there's very little between the Boks and the All Blacks, and we play each other so much. Yeah. There was a point when England played us at Twickenham. It was very close, the series here. Those first 2 tests were wonderful. So that's a 50-50 call, England-South Africa. South Africa, Wales just hasn't been for a long time. And Gatland is a very good rugby coach. He likes the combative style of South Africa. And I think the Welsh pack, I think Wales completely underestimated France. No matter what people say, that wasn't the Welsh intensity that we've seen previously, the opening 20 minutes against Australia. They'll be up for this game. And the one thing, as James said earlier, that does concern me is the only time we've seen South Africa's pack halted was in that first game against New Zealand. And we didn't have an answer to it. Yeah. And if we find ourselves in a situation against Wales where we don't get the 50-meter maul from the line out, we don't win those first collisions, they get a few early points. What is the mental state of this team?
Well, you can look at the trend is there. The big drive from the line out, which has been impressive. But now what if it's neutralized like the All Blacks did to us in their opening game? What is plan B? How do we then get ascendancy? How do we wear them down? How do we get domination? Second of all, for me, and I reiterate this, and I'm firm on this, is our inability to play continuously. We don't keep the ball alive. And that for me is the biggest thing that concerns me at this stage, is that continuation. And then obviously our little blonde, long-headed fairy, Faf de Klerk.
Fabio.
Yeah, Fabiani, who kicks everything away. Now understand...
But surely, James, let me ask this question. Surely there's a plan. And maybe it's the execution of that plan. Because in fairness, let's be fair, Faf had a good game last game. I mean, everybody that's slating on... I think that Yankees would be an interesting starting scrum half in that game, because he's got that X factor, I believe.
Sure, definitely.
But why are they kicking the ball away? I mean, it must be part of the game plan. Is it the execution?
Well, look, I mean, if you look at the stats, Faf kicked the ball 17 times. Okay, 17 times. How many times did we actually recover the ball? Now, if you kick in with a purpose to actually recover the ball, or if you kick in to alleviate pressure, you can understand that. Or if you kick in it to get the opposition to either
on the back foot,
get them to turn around. Yeah. That is none of those principles are applying. So why are we kicking? You know, I would rather say, if you're going to kick a ball, you kick it. You identify your back three, which is their strong foot. So in other words, if a guy is a left-footed kicker, you keep him on the left-hand touchline and you kick the ball on the left, so that if he does try to kick, he's got a minimal angle.
Yes.
We're not doing that. Yeah. We're kicking these up and unders virtually in the middle of the field, which gives them options. They gather that ball. They've got two sides to play to.
Yeah.
So I'm not really understanding the tactical accuracy of the kick.
If I could just come on there, when I watched the game the first time, and there's a lot of emotion around it, and I think the South African nation wants to see the Boks win like the All Blacks win, ball in hand. The Canada game, 35 points in the first 20 minutes. It looks spectacular. I think Rassie has picked a side that has certain strengths, and he's acknowledged certain weaknesses. And one of those weaknesses, we don't have the backs like the All Blacks do. We don't have the backs like England do. That he feels he can advance a play 50 meters with a kick more than he can do ball in hand. So in those 17 kicks, there wasn't one that was directly won back. But if you actually look at the field position that we got ourselves into, the fact that our lineout, we haven't lost a lineout ball in the World Cup, and we've poached more balls than anyone else. So he's back in that lineout to potentially win the ball back if the ball goes out, but to definitely keep that ball, and they'll win the 30-meter game by that. But because it's so premeditated and so structured, I think you just hear the sigh come from people when Faf starts playing with that ball at the base of the scrum. You know it's going up in the air. But it's proven very effective for them because teams are struggling to kind of win it back again. And Japan were very good in how they blocked our winners in chasing, but they didn't advance anywhere with the ball once they got it. And I think the key for the Boks was to keep Japan in their own half and give them 70-80% of the possession, knowing that
they got smashed back in the tackle.
Knowing that they couldn't do anything with it.
But Wales is a different proposition, I think, in that if you keep kicking the ball to Wales, they've got a much better backs than Japanese.
They've also got an outstanding kicking game.
Yes.
So if you look at their halfbacks, starting and off the bench, they can start dictating the game. We saw that in Cardiff last year. We had done so well against England. We should have won that game if that penalty had been awarded with a tackle by Farrell on Andre Esterhuizen. We went the next week, and Wales proved to be our biggest game, and they were comfortable winners. 22-11, we were never in that game. People said it was fatigue in that. To me, it was they nullified our biggest strength, which was our line-out more. And then they also didn't kick out very often, but they had the physicality to match us, and they had the game management. I have a huge regard for this Welsh team and what's been built over the last 2-3 years. And, when Gatlin started in 2011, bringing through a new generation of Wales player, I think this is now the end product of that 2011 World Cup campaign, where they went out.
Well, in Wales, we call him Moses, leading us to the promised land.
So I would say I wrote a column earlier this week to say if Wales beat South Africa, it's not a shock. If South Africa beat Wales, it's not a shock. And with the vice versa with the other thing. The 4 best teams in the world are there, and one score separates them. And it could be a refereeing decision. It could be a card. The thing that does trouble me.
Well, that's the thing that troubles me under the high ball as well. When you're kicking away possession, and you're inviting that
the potential yellow card.
Yellow card. Or red card, Mark, even worse. Yeah. It's
And we have. And Stephen Jones, the UK critic, said a little question to South African fans who hate Jerome Garcias because you can't win under him. Maybe you should see why you can't. Go look at where he's penalising you. And that's something to also consider. We've won 1 out of our last 10 against him and 4 out of 14
Okay, well, let's. I guess we're diving into the referee now, which is my next question. Go on, Mark.
No, just to say that where does he actually pin us? And I think it's at times when we play the All Blacks or we play a Wales or in England and we get negated.
Well, again, you get pinned when you don't have the ball. It's simple. It's highly unlikely when you're carrying the ball and holding on to it and keeping the ball alive, you're going to get penalised. So, that's the consideration, yeah. It's when you kicking the ball away, you're not recovering it, and then you land up giving away penalties.
Well, I think, we're becoming so blinkered with this whole issue. With the whole there's a lot of controversy around the refereeing at the World Cup. There's the Jaco Piper, the old elbow, no, I thought it was funny. Okay, I'm Welsh, but what's he supposed to do?
What I think is shocking is that he was appointed to referee England against New Zealand. And
Jaco Piper?
Yes. And
they about turned.
That was sent out to all the referee associations.
Yeah.
And after the French complained, the French officials, and they implied that he had cheated France, where he hadn't. It was a TMO decision to send the bloke off. And he went back 3 or 4 times in that last movement to see that pass went forward, which it clearly hadn't. So he was giving every...
Mark, the world's forgotten how to laugh at itself.
And it was ridiculous that appointment was taken away from him. But if World Rugby acts as quickly with the referees on-field shocking decisions.
Oh, yeah.
But you don't hear a whisper from them when a referee has made a mistake that has cost the team a place in a World Cup playoff game.
Well, hasn't the top guy at rugby shut off his Twitter account or something like that? I'd read.
I would hope so.
Well, I mean, you think that these refereeing indiscretions would have improved by now with all the technology, the reviews, the TMOs.
But it seems to be more controversial.
Absolutely. And the decision, things happen real time. Yeah. Yes, you're not always going to see everything if that is the case, but you also can't review things over and over and then still get it wrong, which is happening, and it's becoming significant in the game. It's slowing the game up, and it's taking that.
Well, as an ex-rugby player, wouldn't that be a benefit, though?
It's taking that fortune favours the brave aspect out of the game, where it doesn't exist anymore.
You mean like that video that's going viral where the guy gets in a 360-degree tackle, the punch comes in, off the ball incident, and the guy gets penalised for holding on. I don't know if you've seen that.
Yeah, South Africa, Wales. I think it could be 4 red cards and a yellow card. I think you may have played in that game in a 5-second spell. That's when the game was, when men played the game,
that's when
men were men and sheep were nervous.
Exactly, and then Wales and New Zealand triumphed. So, but if you look at the quarterfinals, what I found very revealing was a Wayne Barnes and a Nigel Owens, 2 of the best referees in the world. The refusal of Barnes to go upstairs, and he made calls on the field that were questionable when you saw them on the TMO replay. Nigel Owens went upstairs for the strangest things.
Well, he's Welsh.
But when he gave the penalty try right at the end to Ireland, he was emphatic to Matt Todd. You were not behind the line and you were offside.
Yeah.
The replay showed he wasn't. He was behind the post, and then he got shoved into it. So his tackling technique was shocking, and penalising for that. Negligent, clumsy fall. But he refused to actually have a look while the screen was showing it.
But since where is the law of a negligent, clumsy fall as an offence in rugby? I mean, goodness gracious, it's becoming like, what is dangerous, what is high, what is like...
It's as Michael Hooper said to the referee about Pratchett, the Welsh fluff. But his tackling technique is not very good. When they penalised the Australians.
Well, I can't believe we're talking about a consolation try for Ireland after all this. That's 30 seconds of my life I won't get back.
But they did sing the best anthem.
Who? Ireland?
Yes.
No.
Yes.
It's not an anthem. It's not the Irish anthem. Yeah. It's a rugby anthem.
That was the game.
Yeah.
Slow down, boys. Camera.
Obviously, we're a bit hyped up. A lot of what's left of my testosterone for the week. And so is Garces going to have an impact on this game to the extent that every South African is so paranoid? Because one fan sorry, not a fan, somebody that tolerates me, said, I would rather Gatlin referee the game than this guy. So, I mean, I thought that was a little bit extreme.
Well, he seems to be a custodian of the game, this man.
No, but I mean, should South Africans be worried? Because you know what's going to happen. All the conspiracy theorists are going to come out of the woodwork. Is he going to punish France because the Welsh referee sent the guy off? And the 1-10 record that South Africa has. Should people be worried?
Look, I don't think we should be worried in the sense that he's a cheat. He's someone just lets everything go. So he doesn't cheat one team. He's one of those guys that is laissez-faire. Play on. Just play on. Till the linesman says, have a look at that thing. Then he's very emphatic. It's a red or it's a yellow.
Yeah.
I think, in a way, what Stephen Jones said is there's a lot of accuracy to it. Let's go and look and see why he penalizes us. Mm-hmm. So when he missed a lot against the All Black game, there was also a lot of things he missed from us in that game as well. We need to also lose that victim mentality and understand. When we lost to the All Blacks 25-24 at Newlands, he was refereeing. People said he cheated us. He didn't. He sent the Orlandi off where he should have got a red. He got a yellow.
Yes.
But he was off for the last 6-7 minutes of the game. That put New Zealand back in the game. A poor kick put New Zealand back in the game when Damian McKenzie scored.
Yeah.
We need to look at those things and understand why we've lost.
Of course.
He's not a referee that gives me comfort when it comes to the Springboks.
But you said last week we both agreed that Wayne Barnes was a good choice.
Yeah.
I mean, how did that work out for us?
I mean, he kept Japan in that game for 60 minutes.
They
should have been out of it after 6.
I think someone phoned him and said, "This is okay. The mulligans are all used up."
I think there was a lot more that kept Japan in that game.
There's a wonderful story about Jim Fleming in the early 90s, refereeing a World Cup game. I think it was the All Blacks against one of the
Scottish
teams.
guy.
Yeah, and at the penalty count was something like 11-1.
Yeah.
But the All Blacks were still 3 scores up. And they won the game comfortably. And he apparently went to the losing captain and said, they were just too good, mate. Too good. It's like I did everything. They were just too good. I think Wayne Barnes felt that after 60 minutes. I'm sorry to Michael Leitch, they are just too good.
Well, there is that element that good teams get preference over bad teams.
Yeah.
In terms of the psyche of a referee.
Well, I mean, you don't see a referee punishing a team that's playing on the front foot, playing with ascendancy, playing positive rugby. It's highly unlikely. However, the referees can have a significant impact on the game. If like we are having this discussion, you must imagine how they sit in with their nerves now, saying, if I don't react to a situation like this, this could be my consequence. Or if I'm not cautious enough, I could also have a consequence. So, there's big pressure on them as well.
What consequence do they have unless they take a selfie with another opposing team's fans? Then they act with the speed of a jet fighter. And any other time, it's a glacial-like speed.
Well, look, the only person that I think would be slightly worried, even though he says there's no pressure on them, I loved Eddie Jones's comments to say all the pressure on New Zealand. They expected to beat us. No pressure on us. If we win, it's the shock of the tournament.
Oh, God.
Secondly, if we don't win, we gave it our best. So he's playing those mind games. But when he saw Nigel Owens as the referee, he must think New Zealand hasn't lost in the last 19 tests and Nigel Owens is referee. So,
okay, hold a second. In fairness, Mark, New Zealand don't lose too many tests.
It's true.
And out of 19 tests, they'd win 17 anyway.
There we go.
So let's put that into context.
I know. Nigel Owens, for me, the best referee in the world.
Troll.
Well, I mean, you go to add to that. I mean, they've been the best in the world since 2008, the All Blacks. So go figure.
Their guys tell me since 1888.
Until they were replaced by Wales.
I mean, you even look at my old foe in Sean Fitzpatrick. It was the same when he was captain of the All Blacks. They were dominant, they were winning, and he played the referee because of his leadership ability, because of the way they played. They always played ball in hand, and he manipulated the referees. And some captains and some teams have that power over a referee to almost neutralize and get him to favor those 50-50 decisions.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I think that the only international team more successful than the All Blacks would be the United States basketball team. men's basketball team, but that's because they play with superstars. But that's so. Let's get down to the team. Have the teams been announced yet? Let's talk about the teams.
Yeah, South Africa, big blow. Cheston Colby out.
Yeah,
and
that is a big blow because he is the form player. He's been, to me, the Springbok of the year.
Absolutely,
to me.
No, he's been...
And Sebo Nkosi is a wonderful rugby player, but there's been something magical about Cheslin this year. And he's a player that can win you a game in that one moment. And I don't think Nkosi has that natural ability. He's a great finisher, and he's a good player. But just those twinkle feet of his.
He's like catching water with a net, isn't
the way he can dance through 3 tackles and set something up. Yeah. And we saw that when we...
Very reminiscent of me in my younger days.
I remember seeing that video of you.
What, that swerve?
That's why I've got no hips left.
Down in Newport.
Yeah. Okay, sorry, let's
so
kidding aside.
It's a good replacement, but we do lose something there. Okay. And Rassie then predictably has gone with the rest, and he's gone with
let's name the team for everybody.
Well, it's a team that beat Japan. So he's gone with a 6-2 split, which I think was the interesting thing. So he's gone with Jantjies and Frans Steyn on the bench, and he said to Wales, "We're coming out to do to you what we did to Japan." Yeah. I just don't think it's going to be as easy because I don't see a 45, 50 meter driving maul against Wales.
No, there's not. There's not going to be that. But so, and the Welsh side, I mean, they've got a couple key injuries.
They have, but I think they've also had a very settled squad for the best part of 2 years. And where there has been a loose forward that's gone out, the other one has come in, has played. Okay. So, look, I think also the emotion around Warren Gatlin. This win or lose. This is his last tournament in charge. He's been there for a decade. Yeah, the players love him.
I love him.
And the Kiwis are going to love him because he's back in New Zealand after this, and he's he's head coach of the Chiefs and on the New Zealand advisory board. And they give him a year off to come do the Lions.
What a step down from Wales to the Chiefs, eh?
And back up to the All Blacks.
Look, you know
No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. So
credit to Gatlin. I mean, if you look at the progress that Wales has made, I mean, you know, there were times that, sorry, Kevin, I mean, you know, Wales wasn't even a consideration, you know, when South Africa would play them. It was by how many points you would beat them, you know.
I got married, I don't remember the date, I'm not good at those things, but I know that Wales played Japan, Wales played South Africa, sorry guys. The day I got married, and I had it, and there was a TV there, of course, because it's South Africa, and I'm Welsh, and everybody was so worried about how the Welsh and the rugby. You guys beat us 97-13 that game. So
that's when his friend Narkodropsky dropped the ball. The last one of the game would take up the 100 points.
And the only thing I remember about South African fans is they were all cursing that they didn't get to 100.
So for me now, Wales over a long period of time have been consistently good. We have been good, but inconsistently. Yeah. So that for me is a concern. Also, Wales have beaten us, the last 3 or 4 years? Yeah. So they have that psychological belief that they don't see the Springbok as they might have seen it a decade ago. No, they see the Springbok now as we can beat these guys. Yeah. And that mindset could be advantageous to the Welsh going into this test.
What I have enjoyed about this World Cup, though, and it started with the Rugby Championship, is if Rassie Erasmus succeeded with one thing, it's that the world has acknowledged that the big boys are back. And
boys are back in town.
Yeah, but in their rawest form, brutes, brawn, not necessarily all the brains, but that's always been our trademark and our strength. Absolutely. So why not destroy teams like we did Japan? Why do we have to be the All Blacks? And that's been good to see. And he's invested in the strengths. I just know that he will be very cautious of the Welsh. And you go back to his Munster record. He cleaned up everyone. And they played the Scarlets in the final. And they were 25 points down after 10 minutes. And he said those Irish players just couldn't come back. I think this
how many teams can from 25 points?
He said it was one of those games where there were 2 intercepts, so they didn't have the mental strength to actually not look at the scoreboard and say we're still strong enough to beat this team. I don't know how good we are chasing a game. I think we're very good on the front foot and building pressure and then being ahead. But if we have to chase a game, it means we have to use our individual skills and our backs. And against a good defensive pattern, and Sean Edwards, one of the best defensive coaches ever, a legend in rugby league.
You wouldn't have known it last weekend.
I tell you, mentally, they weren't switched on for that game. They
haven't been switched on for... I mean, let's be honest. Wales have played 25 minutes of good rugby in this tournament. So let's get that. I mean, people are saying, Jesus, guys, get on with it. Like, give us a prediction. So, James, what's the score in the Wales?
Yeah, look, I think South Africa. I'm gonna go South Africa by 15.
Jesus, after all that. No, you're either a genius or a muppet. I don't know which one.
I thought I did. No, I think it's going to be probably a try or a penalty or 2 penalties that will separate the team.
Plus the try makes the 50.
Yeah, makes it 20 if you don't convert. So I'd say by 6 or 7.
Wow. Okay, Mark.
All right. Box by 4, and they'll win the tournament. If Wales win, either England or New Zealand wins the tournament. But I'm going box by 4. I don't think Wales can beat the other 2, but the box can beat the other 2.
Okay.
I'm going 22-18 to the box.
Shall I tell you 22-18 to the box? I agree, and I'll tell you why Wales won't win this game. And it breaks my heart because you both know that I've got a dragon on my chest. It's a bit
Beautiful
saggy.
big one, eh?
Big, yes, massive. It's super massive.
Has he got a name?
Draak. Tell the Drake.
Stop. Okay, let me add a bit of insight. Wales have played 14 tests this year compared to the Springboks 10. And in the Euro, you guys had a half tournament in the Tri Nation, in the what's it called, the championship. Wales had all 5 games to play, and that game against England, winning the Six Nations to Wales, and beating England is what we.
That's significant.
It's super massive. And you take the last 4, then we decide as a team to let's warm up against Ireland, England, or England, whatever the. I mean, I don't understand that madness. It was just crazy. Now Wales impressively have won 19 competitive rugby matches in a row. Take out the losses in the build-up, but I mean in competitive rugby they've won 19 matches, which is pretty impressive.
Absolutely.
But when I see them, I don't see that they have much left in the tank. They didn't front up to France last week. We should not be playing this weekend. You know, and I'd rather be lucky than good. But we used our get out of jail card last weekend against the French. And there's no way that we're going to win this game. South Africa are too strong physically. I don't think we can front up to them. Rassie's rugby brain. And the fact that you guys have lost the last 4 games. Now, how many of them did you lose under Rassie?
1.
What? Was it 1?
Yeah.
2. The one in DC as well with the B-side. So 2.
So that's a B-side team, right? And you played England and then went on to play Wales. So it was a tough tournament. And that was Rassie's, it was his first tour with the Boks, right? Yep. So he's built this team up for me, and they're gelling at the right time. Whereas the Boks are on the up and Wales are on the down. I unfortunately have to say that. Now, I'll sing the anthem, though I don't know the words. I'll mumble along, and I'll shake the hands after the game. But, South Africa winning this game by double digits. I have no doubt about it.
Big call.
Well, look,
I only laugh with Mr. Bullets.
No, I am.
Don't change your prediction.
No. I'm going to make a statement.
Don't go there, Nas.
I'm going to make a statement. On the other hand.
However,
this is hard games.
The thing for me is where this game can get turned on its head is if our forwards are neutralised. Let's be totally honest. We don't have dynamic backline players with the X factor. Cheslin being out now. Our backline play is average. It's super average. So if our forwards are neutralised, the Welsh backs are better than our backs.
That's interesting. But any footballer will know that you've got to have ball to use the back. You can have Superman, Batman, Robin, Aquaman, and all these guys in the back line, but if you don't give them the ball, there's not much they can do.
If you don't have the Hulk up front.
Bubble. Okay, so my prediction is Wales by 10. I am going to...
You mean South Africa by 10?
Oh, God, yeah.
That dragon's going to turn on you, my mate.
Look, I'll be cheering for Wales. It's in my DNA.
Sure.
But
I would expect you to.
Yeah. Thanks, James. And I was concerned about it because I've been here 23 years, and I cheer. My voice is going from the Springboks game against Japan, probably more from the Wales game, but it's not easy. It's not easy to be in my situation, but Wales, that the anthem, that'll get me revved up, but we won't win. So that could be my biggest rev of the day.
You mean that will be your biggest pleasure, is the anthem? Thereafter, not much.
Look, I think I just want to see a game and ask everybody out there to respect and be humble, win, lose, because that's the essence and that's the culture I grew up in rugby. All this vitriol that's out there, and I think I had one guy that when I posted the Rhys Evans video, an ex-worker from Highbury actually, he just went, "Fuck you, money man." I was like, what great insight. And that's the world we're living in now, is where people, we're living in a world where everybody has a voice, and it's a very noisy world.
Yeah.
So let's try and those that played rugby in school and understand rugby, let's just try and celebrate the occasion, win or lose.
Sure. Look, I think you're right there, Kevin. I'm hoping for a great game of rugby that will do the World Cup justice, do both nations justice, and please that there's not a red card early on that's going to influence and make it a watered down contest.
Yeah. I'm just hoping for a game where the Boks end with 1 point more.
Well,
Win is a win.
So let's God, I'm exhausted. But let's get into England, and we can just brush over England, New Zealand, because that's the Boks Wales is the draw card, and then the undercard is for me.
Well, the main game is Sunday, isn't it?
Well, we know. I'm kidding. Trolls easy. No, what a game on Saturday. What a game.
Yeah, that's going to be a monster of a game. They're both very good rugby teams, from 1 to 15 to the reserve bench. Two brilliant, intelligent, tactful coaches. Two teams on fire, on form. It's going to be a crack of a test match.
Yeah, who's when you say on fire, who do you think's more on fire? Like, what degrees are we talking here?
Kevin, I don't know. They both well balanced sides. Yeah. They creative up front. Their backline play is good. Their linking between forwards and backs are good. The quality of the tries that they've scored, and they've got some standout players. They've got a lot of, in each team there are a lot of X factor players, and we know in every team you need that X factor player that can turn a game on its head, and they certainly have that.
I think if you look at their benches, that's the quality that tells you in a batch 23. Yeah. When their subs can't come on, they lose nothing. If anything, they improve. Absolutely. And very few teams have got that. We've got that with our forwards. I don't think with our backs. But no other teams got that in the World Cup. And that was one of Ireland's biggest disadvantages. Yeah. There was, you can't compare Sexton to Carberry when he came on. They lost something significant when they lost a frontline player. Yeah. New Zealand, not so. Very interesting selection that they've made, though, is England talk about the kamikaze kids, as Eddie Jones has dubbed the two flankers. Curry and Underhill, youngsters who have just been, they're short, they're stocky, so there's no high tackle issues, and they win turnover ball, they stop momentum, and everyone saw this as the battle between Ardie Severe, Sam Cane, and these two. Sam Cane in 66 tests has never played England. He's always been injured. Steve Hansen has relegated him to the bench. Started with Ardie Severe as an open sider, and he's brought Scott Barrett in for his first ever test as a blindside flanker. He says to combat the line-out, combat the kickoff, and give them an effective extra lock, and also to combat their physicality. Now, the response in New Zealand has been, it's the first time they've seen a selection made based on the opposition and not on themselves.
And that's
is that a masterstroke or is that an admission?
Yeah.
So it's going to be very interesting. Kane's there for at least for 40 minutes to come on. But that will also put a little bit of doubt into Eddie's mind to say they may have something up their sleeve, because Eddie Jones has gone back to George Ford at 10, Owen Farrell at 12. So he's gone with two playmakers, where he just felt he could go with the physicality against Australia, just a big bruiser at 12. Yeah. So I think it's a fascinating contest, and if it's not ruined by a card, it's a one-score game, and I don't think any team will be defined by this game to say they're a failure. I think if one team wins there, it's because on the day they just that one score better. And my view is it's going to be England.
Well, look, with these big clashes, you're right. It could be the outcome of a red card that could turn it. But with this clash, it's going to be the side that uses their opportunities well, the side that gives the least amount of penalties away. Obviously, we know the penalties are detrimental, and a bit of a lucky bounce of the ball.
Yeah, it's just a mouth-watering proposition.
And with Nigel Owens there, it's going to be a spectacle. He lets that game unfold.
That's because he can't catch up with the play.
And when he does, you'll calm it down to give them a little bit of a schoolmaster lecture about their language.
He's well worth he's worth the price of admission on his own.
So I think outside of Jaco Paper, it's the best referee for those teams to have got if you want a
good flow
where you see that positive rugby being played. And I think a French referee would have favoured England more than New Zealand, because it would have allowed that nitty-gritty and that forward-dominated battle. But I just think on balance, you said which side's firing most.
The French and the English don't really get along. So, I mean, you can make a case for all that. I mean, I think that Jaco Piper should be refereeing this.
He should have. And I think... And
it's disgraceful. Yeah. Shame on you, IRB, or World Rugby. Sorry. No. Good on you, IRB. Shame on you, World Rugby. Not good enough. Simply not good enough.
Yeah, and to me, the top two referees in the world, Nigel Owens and Jaco Paper, I thought Barnes was in the top three. It showed he's still mortal. But if South Africa weren't in the final, I thought it would be Jaco Paper's final to get. And that's the acknowledgement was to give him New Zealand, England, was you're good enough to referee the final.
Well, he's arguably the best referee in the world, isn't he?
Yeah, and he's also got some character and personality, as we saw.
And this is what we want to see in this world, not this political correctness.
Well, you don't want the referees to overshadow the game. And I think sometimes that's what happens. The referees almost think that the game is centered around them. They are the be-all and the end-all of it.
Well, in a world where selfies reign, how can a referee be held accountable for being part of a selfie? I mean, it's the culture we live in. Anyway, let's
please, let's start, because now we sound like typical South Africans who will carry on and on with the referees. Every time we lose, Brew, it's the referee's fault. It's not our fault.
Look, it's tough in the moment because people that have never... Rugby's not a lean-back experience on TV. You're standing up, you're walking around, it's a lean-in. It's not a relaxed... Soccer, they build up. God, you can watch the play unfold for half an hour and nothing happens. But in rugby, something's happening every second. So it's an anxiety-provoking game.
Culmination of something.
Yeah. Well said, James. And so... Yeah, people that have never played the game or have never watched it and supported a team will never understand the passion.
So let's put it out there. Who's going to win this game?
I've got England to win by 3, and it's a South Africa-England final.
Sure.
Oof. Jamesy?
Listen, the All Blacks know how to win. They know how to win consistently. They're a well-balanced rugby team. They're mentally strong. They use their opportunities. They know how to choke you slowly out of a game. If England are not accurate and on form on Saturday, then I would say New Zealand by 7 to 10 points.
Wow. Okay. I think it's going to be a draw. I'm just kidding. I think.
And then do we go back to who scored the most tries?
No, I think Mark, you raised a very interesting point where you said that with the selections to accommodate. That's a big statement. I mean, that's a big intention, and it's not what New Zealand does. I put the Ireland game in perspective. With that game, Ireland were terrible. So. Everybody wanting to engrave the cup with New Zealand on it, I think you're in for a bit of a shock, because I think that when I look at it from a betting point of view, which is what I look at every game as, when you can get a coin out and toss it up in the air, and you can get over 2 to 1 on what you call heads, I'm going to take England. I think England are going to upset them. I think that. New Zealand haven't been. New Zealand haven't been good. They've this year and last year. They lost a few games. Okay, autumn series, but they lost to Ireland twice. They've lost to South Africa. They've lost to Australia. They drew to South Africa. They should have lost in Pretoria. This isn't the same. I'm not going to forget it. I'm not going to deviate from what we talked about at the beginning of the Rugby World Cup, that this wasn't a Richie McCaw, Dan Carter team, and it isn't. Nothing's changed in that regard. You know, they beat a team. Argentina beat Ireland in 2015 by how many points? 20 points.
20 points.
Yeah. So the All Blacks beat them by close to 30. Big deal. And sorry, Ireland, you just weren't. I mean, they were never in the game.
Ireland don't play World Cups. It's in their kind of.
They don't. Well, they don't play
Ireland
semi-finals.
weren't good at all in this.
Yeah.
Ireland have never had a semi in their life.
Just a quarter of a final.
So for me,
they were a bit half lazy.
No, they were shocking. But anybody that's observing something and just sees the same pattern happening again, and then reads into New Zealand now they're gelling. Now it's wow, they just give them the cup. It's like, come on.
But also, I think it would be nice for a World Cup where it's not New Zealand again.
Well, what did England do to Ireland?
Also, record score. 50 points.
Yeah. But
so there's a score between New Zealand and England.
Yeah, I just think that the Eddie Jones is going to win. As much as I slate him sometimes, he is a funny old guy. He's a funny guy.
And he's a master technician.
And he's a master technician. And he starts from the moment. He starts from the moment that the next game ends, and he's.
Look, I think this Test match will be won in the first 20 and the last 20 minutes. Whoever keeps that momentum, who starts well and who keeps them and ends well, will be the victor in this. If any team loses their way in those segments of the game of the 80 minutes, they certainly will be on the losing side.
It'll be an intense game.
No, it's going to be a massive game. To come out of that semi and then still go and play a final against South Africa.
Well, I think
it's going to be brutal.
Well, as a Welshman, we're not going to win. But I mean, if we do pox another win, and
you may not want to go to the final.
Well, I wouldn't mind. You know what? I wouldn't mind going to the final against two teams that have just knocked lumps out of each other. That's so. Whatever team gets to, whoever South Africa are playing, they're going to have just come out of a war.
Yeah,
and so that's why I like Mark's call on South Africa. But I'm gonna pick England by 7 points. Okay. And good luck to both teams. Good luck to all 4 teams this weekend. Should be one hell of a weekend. Thanks, guys, for coming in.